Good evening. We will call the meeting to order. This is the time and the place for the regular school board meeting for the Marshalltown Community School District. It's January 16, 2024. We got a big crowd tonight. Welcome to everybody joining us here in person. Welcome as well to anybody who might be watching via the live stream or watching later on at your leisure. We'll do introductions of the board members here this evening. To my left, we have Karina Hernandez and Leah Stanley. Board members to my right are Zach Wall, Elizabeth Wise, and Sarah Faltis. Seated here at the center table with me, to my left, Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools. To my right, Mr. Randy Denham, the board secretary. I am Sean Heitman. We also have three of our student school board representatives here this evening, Natalie Andrade, Daisy Covarrubias Andrade, Giselle Hernandez Ibarra, and I believe Diana will be joining virtually for the presentation, right? Okay. Before we do anything else, as I'm sure everyone is aware, because how could you not be at this point, there was a school shooting in Perry a few weeks ago. Sixth grader Amir Jolliffe and now the high school principal Dan Barberger both lost their lives as a result of that. We're going to start this evening with a brief moment of silence in memory of them and in honor of the folks who are still suffering from the injuries, both physical and mental, that they suffered as a result of that. Thank you. Couple announcements before we go too much farther. There's a pink sign-up sheet there on the speaker's table for anybody here who wishes to address the board during public comment. You will be given 5 minutes to address the board. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Also, in accordance with board policy, board members will not respond to comments made during public comment so that we can comply with open meeting laws. Is that all the announcements, Randy? You got them. Thank you. With those things done, would you all please join in reading the mission statement of the Marshalltown School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Yes, we had one addition in the consent agenda. We have an invoice from Terracon for soil testing services as part of the career and technical education renovation at Marshalltown High School.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Faltis, Stanley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Abby?
So originally Lego League was supposed to go first, but dance team has to perform tonight, so.
Gets to, right?
The MHS Bobcat dance team are the 2023 state champions in show production, which they claimed the top spot in early December at the ISDTA state dance competition. In addition, the team received Division I in pom and jazz. Marshalltown also received an academic award for their GPA average. And then Rachel Scheibel performed her solo at state dance as well and received third place. Both the team and the coach, Tanya Kenner, are here tonight to kind of talk about the experience and kind of what competition was like. So, pass the mic.
Okay, I don't know how far to be away from this, but so we're the Bobcat dance team captains. We have our head captains, co-captain? Yeah. And I'm the performance captain for the 23-24 season.
Hey, could you introduce yourself?
Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
Ava Lucas.
I'm Ellie Yates.
I'm Rachel Scheibel.
And I'm Ella Pombisai.
Yeah, so that's us. But so our season starts like way in June, and we work really hard working up to December when we finally get to hit the floor and show them what we've been working on. And this year, I think I'd speak for all of us, saying that we're really proud with what we came up with and getting D1 and first place for our division, because we faced some pretty hard competition considering that we come from a bigger school district. They break that down into way bigger statistics than I can talk about. But, but yeah, so the competition is hard for what we go with, but we did very good for that.
Did amazing.
Yeah. Any questions or anything?
We compete against, there's 278 schools that attend ISDTA, and in several of our divisions or classes, we compete up against around 14 to 15 schools. So for us to place first is simply amazing. To get a Division I in any of those is also outstanding, because frankly we could get nothing with the competition that we're up against. So I am so incredibly proud of these dancers and how much hard work, dedication, and drive that they have at each practice. And I know most don't know, but we are, I believe, the only team that practices at 6 a.m. And it's an everyday occurrence starting in the day school starts, which they love. They love. They love. So the hours that we put in, we practice 6 hours a week during the summer. Every week we do a lot of our fundraising during the summer to raise funds for our choreography and anything else that we need throughout the year, our POMs and everything else. So I would say hours and hours and hours are put into what they do. So to say I'm a proud coach is an understatement. And this year was just beyond exciting for everyone. So this is the first time that Bobcat Dance Team has placed first at ISDTA. So this was a huge accomplishment for the team, the district, and the community. So very proud of them.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I was going to mention that I often drive into work between 6 to 7, so I see the roundhouse all lit up, and I'm looking in the windows, and I see all you guys working in the middle of June.
Stop in.
I'm like,
We can warm you up.
I should be walking on the track.
So,
But
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you
yes.
so very much. Thank you, thank you.
All right. Yeah. In December, the Miller Game Changers Lego League team competed and had a great showing at the regional tournament. The team won the Innovation Project Award and qualified for the state tournament this month. The team is here tonight with their advisor, Ann Jackson, and they also brought something special along with them.
Okay, so one of our teammates is at a basketball commitment tonight, so he's not with us, but the rest of the team is here, and they'd like to give you a little rundown of their innovation project, and then we'll need some volunteers too. So, Ian. Here you go. You just hold that.
Okay, so we first started brainstorming for our innovation project by finding our idea, hobbies that we all shared and had difficulty expressing to and sharing to others. We eventually made a list of all our considerations, and we narrowed them down to eventually video games.
Now that we had our interest, we needed to know how we were going to use the arts to communicate. We came up with things that might make it difficult for you to play video games, and we ended up with age and how you can grow out of playing video games.
After that, we came up with a survey asking people about how old they are and whether or not they were interested in video games still.
After that, we used the data we collected from the survey to find out what people didn't like about video games, and one of the main issues with older people was not being able to play with the controller as much, as it may be too many buttons for them.
Next up, we wanted to find professionals in the area to see what their thoughts were. So we interviewed them, and we got some pretty good feedback. They all thought that age, you might grow out of video games because you have more things to do or something like that. Then we created a model, that controller, to see if we could implement things to make adults maybe grow back into video games from some of the problems.
We were then able to share our controller and our game at the public library. We were able to get participants to fill out a form that would help us improve our game and controller further.
So to summarize, they created a working video game controller, and they coded a video game specifically for adults 45 years and older. So I don't know if that's any of you here, but if anybody would like to try the game, we would be more than happy to let you have a whirl. Somebody has to.
I can. How about that? There you go.
Put it near the camera. Me too. So, this should work.
It's okay, James. It'll be fine.
Hold this copper wire and then move it to right, left, and then just press the button.
Press the button. Okay. Hold the copper wire.
Yep.
Oh. Good job.
It works most of the time.
I know.
What?
Uh-oh. What do I do now?
So you should be able to move it to the left.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh,
And the button
goodness.
jumps.
So one of the pieces of feedback they got was that their game was too hard at the library, so they had to scale it back a lot. And when I would play it with them, I'd have them scale it back a lot. And sometimes just for testing sessions, I'd have to have them get through levels for me because I couldn't do it.
This is hard.
I'm pretty sure you glitched. Let me just fix the controller real quick.
I'm older, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a prototype, so it's not built for
great.
Hey, Anne?
Yeah.
Well, while he's fixing that, would you introduce everybody on the team for us?
Sure. We forgot to do that. This is Ian Pong, Logan Bailey, Finley Judge, Marco Sanchez Juarez, Levi Reynolds, and James Marquez, and then Garrett Thede is also on the team. He's the one who is not here tonight. And then also in LEGO League, we have the robot game. We've been working really, really hard on that. And then we have core values, of course, and we're always working on those too. So our tournament is January 27th. And then after that is the international competition if we make it. So we'll see. Thank you for having us. Are there any questions for the kids?
Is that in Ames, the
Yeah.
state?
Yep, it's at Iowa State. And the past 3 or 4 years that we've been supposed to go, we've gotten snowed out. So hopefully we're all through that. And this year will be no problem. We can go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I need to open the public hearing on the 24-25 school year or school calendar. Anybody wish to comment on that? Any written comments received on that?
No comments received.
Then I will now close the public hearing on the 24-25 school calendar. And we will move on to the consent agenda, where we have minutes from the December 18th regular board meeting. Oh, it's really been that long, hasn't it? A month ago. Dr. Ryan is coming up here because there's an item of note in the personnel agenda.
Yes, Val Ehlers, our teacher librarian at Rogers, has announced that she is retiring at the end of the year. So I just wanted to read some words that Melissa Brummel, the acting principal at Rogers, wrote about Val. Val Ehlers, our esteemed teacher librarian at Rogers Elementary, has supported innovation and community building throughout her tenure. Her leadership in the Makerspace initiatives ignited creativity and exploration among our students, fostering a love for hands-on learning. Her adept management of technology seamlessly integrated modern tools into our curriculum, ensuring our students were well prepared for the digital landscape. Moreover, her talent for organizing staff gatherings created a sense of camaraderie and support, leaving an invaluable legacy of unity within our school community. As she embarks on her well-deserved retirement, her impact as an educator, technologist, and community builder will resonate for years to come. We thank Val for her many years of service to the district.
In interagency agreements and contracts, there's a master services agreement with Apogee. There's an agreement with Dramatists Play Services for The Actor's Nightmare, a short comic play. An agreement with Iowa Workforce to provide work experience and school counseling at the middle school level. An estimate from Project 7 Design for the Embrace the Lead awareness campaign. A lease agreement with Meadow Lane Mall through August 31st of 2024. An agreement with Marshalltown Community College for field experience placement. A food service agreement with Hope Head Start, First United Methodist Head Start, and High Street Head Start to provide food under the Iowa Child and Adult Care Food Program. And the agreement with Terracon for testing and inspection services related to the high school CTE project. Are there questions about any of those items? We also have 4 special education agreements, one with Linn-Mar Community School District, one with Ames Community School District, one with Des Moines Independent School District, and one with Clayton Ridge Community School District. Randy, any items of note in either the bills or the monthly financials?
There are not.
Are there any questions for Randy about the bills or the monthly financials? Then we also have open enrollments, 1 in and 8 out. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Forget the word.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Stanley Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstention. Nobody's on the pink sheet this evening, so Mark, you and your fantastic mustache can come right up here and give your presentation. I'm serious. I'm not trying to poke fun. I think it looks great.
Just emerged out of laziness, and now it's just, I don't know, continued laziness. I don't know. So, Jennifer August, instructional coach at Fisher, Mark Lee, principal at Fisher. And I'm going to share a few quick bullet points, and then we have a little presentation we're going to dig into a little bit on PLCs and see if people have questions, but we find that to be a pivotal part of successes that we're finding at Fisher. But a couple of quick overview things. We have our PTO really helped support getting our walking path implemented and put into place at Fisher. And students use that a lot. It's a great opportunity when grass is wet to be able to get and have some more space. We have a walking club where students keep track of how many laps they're doing. They can then earn little toe tag keychains, making it fun and exciting for kids. Implementing Fly 5 curriculum, which is our social emotional curriculum, which is tied to responsive classroom. And it's taught by our classroom teachers as well as our counselors. And we use assemblies to reinforce the different characteristics that we're looking for, like in that upcoming month. And students enjoy it. And one of the things that we've learned in collaborative problem solving, kids do well if they can, is a statement that we use. It's social emotional as well as academic. They're skills that we need to make sure the students have. So this curriculum is new to all of us, but it's kids have enjoyed it, teachers have enjoyed it. So that's something that we've been working to implement this year. And then this has come up previously at a recent board meeting, but our Fisher Elementary was ranked top 40% by U.S. News and World Report. Great honor and recognition for our hard work from our staff and students. So we'll dive into a little bit specific on PLCs and how we use those to drive successes and continue to learn. So going to our presentation. Essentially, and we've talked about PLCs before, but we come back to those because we find them an integral part of what we do at Fisher. Really, a PLC is professional learning community. It's not a program, so it's something that we've really learned and developed over past several years. We've been to multiple conferences, so when people get an opportunity to go to those, they are incredibly beneficial, but it's not a kind of canned program where every time you go, you can learn something new. So, and we are going to be hosting that a PLC conference in April. So I'm excited because we'll all have an opportunity to participate in that. But really, it's a continual cycle of looking at data, refining what we're doing, and just going through that process repeatedly. So on that next slide, there's just some bullet points. But 3 big ideas that come from a book, Learning by Doing, which is kind of the textbook, if you will, of PLCs, but focus on learning. So one of the things that they focus on is not talking about, hey, I taught it to the students, they didn't get it. Well, I don't know, that's their fault. We were looking and being reflective and saying, okay, they're not learning it, I'm teaching it, they're not learning it, something's not working, we need to figure out a different way and reevaluate and try something different. Collaborative culture, collective responsibility. One of the things when looking at data, you have to be a little bit vulnerable, and that's something that we've developed as a culture over time. And being able to ask questions and ask for help and knowing that we don't know everything and being able to also give support and say, you know what, actually this is working for me. What about this? And there's just a process going back and forth. We also share kids a lot across classrooms, which alleviates some of that pressure, like, hey, they're all of our kids, both social, emotionally, and academically. So we're looking to help all students to be successful. And then results orientation, really looking at data. And I know in the past, honestly, there was times when, you know, I know that kid knows that the data, that's not showing what he really knows. Well, actually, the data is showing what they know, and we need to trust that. And if they're not getting it, we need to go back to the drawing board so we can help them to be successful. So the next slide just gives a quick rundown of kind of what I just said, but really gathering evidence, looking at data through multiple means, developing strategy through those collaborative teams, and we meet once a week or once per cycle per team, but really this process is now ingrained that we're using this thinking through all the conversations we have, and that helps in all aspects of the teaching. So we implement those strategies, and then we go back to the drawing board and look, okay, is this working? Analyze the data. We have built-in intervention times, and we're really just looking at how do we help kids to be successful, kids that are getting it, how do we extend them so they can keep learning and growing beyond what they know, and then we just continue that and kind of cycle through.
All right, so if you go to slide 5, we have some video clips from some of the PLCs so we can give you an inside view of what happens. Like Mark said, these happen weekly. By the times our team gets started, they're usually about 40 minutes long. And we did not tell the teachers that we were recording. We just arrived at the meeting like we do. Mark and I attend those meetings on a regular basis. And said at some point during the meeting we're going to record. So you're getting a true picture of what happens in those. So starting with kindergarten, like you can see the teachers here are discussing math groups. This little snippet, and we kept them pretty short, but this, the teachers look at the essential standards, they look at the curriculum. Like Mark talked about, we're continually collecting data. We reevaluate how we group students after an assessment is completed. We have a math flex time at the start of our day where it's all of our staff are participating in some capacity to serve students. They're paired up with grade levels. A lot of times we will have like 4 or 5 groups. We'll have those kids that are really struggling and needing some reteaching, those kids that are strategic and close, maybe just missing a couple skills, our benchmark kids that we are continuing to push forward on the standard, and then our extension kids. But in between those testing windows, our teachers are continually within those groups. They're mixed through the classrooms. They're looking to see which kids are, getting those skills I'm teaching and where do I need to move on. So this little clip kind of shows they're discussing what to do in between those testing windows from some students that are showing really good progress in the group. So this is kindergarten.
All right, so if we look at our most current math groups, I don't know if we made some changes to the content, but I didn't know if we wanted to look at how those kids are doing with the current stuff we're working on and switch it up, or move on to maybe the next level of skill.
Okay, I had a question about that as well. I wondered if we're basing what we do on like the content of the last chapter. Because like we made these groups based on chapter 4, which is comparing. So I was doing number sense, and they're doing really well with that. But I was thinking of moving on to extending more with comparing, or do we want to maybe look ahead and
kind of like for the next addition?
Yeah,
maybe
focus more on addition. So that was a question I had.
I think that makes sense since you have the kids who are proficient and they have just higher skills. That would make sense to push more addition work, or even subtraction to get them ready for that as well.
I hadn't touched on that yet.
Okay, next for first grade, this is a literacy PLC. Literacy PLCs are newer for us than math. So you're going to see here, they're looking at a skills unit, a CKLA skills unit, and we complete what we call unpacking documents. We have them for math and literacy, where we're digging into the essential standards, the curriculum, and it's really the teacher's guide. They're making notes in there on instructional strategies that work best. We come back to those every single year, make adjustments. So you'll see a little discussion of them unpacking their skills for literacy.
Looking at what our focus will be, our controlled vowels, which we've already jumped into. As you can see, our 2-syllable words, which we've already, with our skills lesson as of today even, we've already been doing, and then our past, present, and future tense words, and then the tricky words because today, yesterday, and tomorrow. What we did talk about before when we started with this last year, that 2-syllable words that contain double consonant spellings are divided after the double letter spelling rather than between the 2 consonants. So just as a reminder. And then our past tense verbs. where we do not add ed. So, any questions or anything about that, or anything to add to that for what we're looking at?
No, good reminder.
Good, okay. Then we still have one pausing point day for Skills 4. And we have our writing as informational text. And I thought that what we could really do and what I'd like us to focus on maybe is just getting started with what our writing is going to look like. And
they did, from that conversation too, decide what they're writing. They're actually going to group kids across classrooms during that time, so they can dig into some of the different needs of those groups and do some remediation and extension while still meeting those standards. Next is second grade. This is another literacy one. They're actually discussing some results of a CFA, which stands for a Common Formative Assessment. That's a real quick check for us before those larger assessments to see how students are doing, areas we need to revisit within the standard, or things that are going well, obviously, that we can celebrate. So they have their data entered on some spreadsheets that we use to give us some percentages by teacher for how things are going, for like Mark said, so we can, if a teacher is having really high success, we want to dig into what's happening and learn from each other. So a lot of our sheets that we use calculate that for us, and those teachers have those conversations. So you'll see they have their computers up for that, and then they're also looking at some specific student work as they discuss these.
That is our Skills 4 writing rubric with our standard L2.1 and L2.2. So remember how we gave out our new writing checklist and we were looking at pretty much the same things as last time, just adding in capital letters for proper nouns and the new spelling patterns we've learned. So what have you guys noticed from our CFA on 5.3? I know we just did 8.2 on Friday, so you might not have had a chance to get that thoroughly looked at yet. But if you glance quick, what do you notice?
I noticed they're doing a lot better with the capital letters and the punctuation at the end of the sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Which they should, because again, with all these skills checklists, it's in like at the top of the list every time that they have those basics. I noticed, I mean, with 5.3, it was only asking for one sentence, and then we asked them to do more than one for 8.2.
Yeah.
This is really kind of showing where kids understand the difference of like complete thoughts. Like, I noticed a lot of run-on sentences. So, you know,
in 8.2? I did too.
Because it's, you know, they're still, when they have one sentence to write, they know all those basics, they use their checklist. When it's creating a second new thought, they often will forget their period between. It's just one long run-on sentence.
And then third grade is next. They're also analyzing some assessment data and determining next steps.
We had 3 essential standards, so the 3OA, A3. Would someone mind sharing like our grade wide percentage for that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
75.81%.
And then I don't think the OA B5.
72.13.
Okay, and then the C7.
Oh, 85.48%.
Those are all math standards that they were looking at there.
Okay, so then just looking at this data, I would say that we still need to continue on with that B5 standard. And then possibly looking at the OA A3. I didn't bring my tests with me.
I have.
But
I think the A3 would just be story problems. And then the B5 would be a number divided by itself, the number divided by 1, and a number, or divided by 0.
I was going to ask also, in the interest of time, there's a couple other clips. Should we go into those or save those?
I think you're fine if you want to show them. I assume they're about the same as.
Yeah, they're like a minute.
That's fine.
Okay, fourth grade is literacy. They were looking at a CFA to give around their literacy standard.
that we wanted to look at that standard RI41, which is referring to details and examples in the text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. Last year, we decided to use those inventor cards from lessons 2, 4, and 6. What I wanted to do though was look at like proficiency, so that we're consistent on what we would consider to be proficient on that standard using those cards as a CFA.
Well, like Dave said, it's page 73.
There's an example of one.
Yeah, there is the George Washington.
And it says what needs to be in there. I would think the top has to be exact. Name,
Yes.
birth date, birthplace. Inventions.
But how many do we want to accept as proficient? Because they can come up with, isn't there like 200?
Well, this one has a lot, but some other ones, like the lady who invented the whiteout, that's certain.
Right, there's just one answer. But this one's a little bit different.
Well, since there's a lot, I think they should be able to come up with.
And then finally, we selected a district PLC. This is Title I. So this one meets virtually on a cycle day. And this group has really dug into their BLAST intervention materials that they are using. And you're going to see them, they're doing some work with unpacking standards and determining common formative assessments so that we have consistency across our schools within Title. So this is a little clip from one of their virtual meetings.
Taught that some of the inflectional endings create an additional syllable when added to the end of a word. They then decode the words with the inflectional endings ER, ED, S, ES, and ING. For the prerequisite, we have know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. And immediately prerequisite skills would be Unit 17, Lesson 1, 3 through 5 with the chunk ing, Unit 23, Lesson 1 with the suffix ed, and Unit 24, Lesson 1 that we were just talking about.
Okay, so here's where we can try to dig in and get that CFA for this one. This one is a lot better because it has the syllable words and they're actually writing and separating the words into syllables. Okay, so we're on page, where should we start? In the you do section? On page
369.
369. The teacher manual.
You can pause that one there and stop, but you'll just see that then
What do we want?
they're coming up with that common assessment, so they have that, and then that's a document that all of our title teachers are using, like I said, for that consistency. And then just one other quick thing before questions, you'll notice in each of those clips, we had PLC leads who were leading those meetings. We're really proud of our PLC leads and the leadership that we've been able to build in our school, and they plan those agendas and do a great job of leading those meetings. Anything else?
So just to add, one of the things that, and this has taken time to develop as well, when they come to those meetings, they have that data ready. So they're like, okay, here's the numbers, and then we can focus on what's the next step? How do we support the students rather than grading in those meetings? It's really problem solving and planning so that we make good use of that time. So that's definitely developed over time and important in that process. So, but any questions or comments?
So you mentioned something about hosting a PLC conference.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that and what you're doing and how?
Well, we are not hosting it. We will be attending.
Oh, I thought, okay,
Yeah,
we are
the district
hosting.
is hosting.
The district is hosting.
Los Soluciones conference, which is specifically geared towards work with second language students, although it benefits all students. And so we're hosting that April 15th and 16th, I believe. So we have professional development scheduled for that time. All of our employees or teachers and certified staff will be participating, and then we've done outreach across the state. I know that there are teams from, I think, California and Colorado and some other places that are coming as well. So it'll be a big couple days. We've reached out to the AA about their interest in participation as well. So we're super, super excited. Usually this conference, which is only held periodically, is in Houston or New Mexico or California. So we sent about 40 people 2 summers ago, and then when we found out that they were not offering it this year, we talked to them about our willingness to host it if they're willing to come, and they were very excited about that.
Excellent, okay.
So I don't have a question. I appreciated the video clips, right? To see like what goes on behind the scenes, so to speak, right? That it's not just the teacher in front of the classroom or working with the kids in the classroom. It's all of the collaborative work that goes on outside of the classroom. And one of those was in your little conference room where you've got your data walls. Because I've been in the building before, right? And you've got the data for all those kids and you're tracking them in there. And that's just, and I know you're not the only ones who do it, but it's impressive to see. And so I appreciated that.
Yeah, thank you. And those video examples are just, like Mark said, we really believe in a grade level and across our school system that they're all of our kids. And I think that's evident in those. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And I know we also have to work on rescheduling the board visit because of weather, so we look forward to that as well. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
You're up, Amy. Come on up.
I was waiting for permission to come to the table. All right, good evening. Thank you. There are some new faces, I think, since the last time I visited, so I'll take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Amy Starr. I'm the Regional Administrator for Central Rivers AEA, and it's my pleasure to have Marshalltown as part of my assignment. I'm the Administrator for the Marshalltown area, West Marshall, Eldora, New Providence, and Hubbard Rad is the area that I cover. And so I just wanted to come tonight to have some time to talk with you and give you some little bits of information and give you an opportunity to ask me any questions moving forward.
Amy, would you like me to hand these out?
At the end, if you would, that'd be great, Matt. Thanks. All right, Amy, you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. That would be great. So I want to take some time tonight to talk to you a little bit about House Study Bill 542. It's just been introduced. It's going to subcommittee. Currently, as we speak, it's been assigned to the Education Subcommittee, and it's rolled out quickly. And I think what my opportunity tonight is to give you some information so you can advocate the best to your ability for your staff and students for the Marshalltown Community School District. Above here on the slide, you'll see many different services that our AEA has continued to offer all school districts across Central Rivers AEA and across the state as an AEA system. If the passing of this bill takes place, many of those services, those in red, will fall apart. What's at stake for local school districts is ed services, media and technology, any fee for services, special education, and property. I'll take some opportunities to talk about each one of those a little bit with you tonight. This graphic shows you, again on your left, are all of the different services and supports AEAs have been providing to local school districts. It's been said, and I think you may have heard it, that AEAs began in the early 1970s, and there's been some criticism that they have morphed or evolved into something beyond their initial recognition. And I think we can all recognize that schools, communities, children, and our classrooms have significantly changed since the 1970s. As an AEA system, we've continued to evolve and be there to support our local school districts regardless of the changes in education. We know it takes more to educate kids these days than it did in the 1970s. House Study Bill 542 removes all of those things that you'll see crossed out in red on the right-hand side of this graphic. What will be left, and it will have some limitations to its scope, is special education. I'm going to take a minute and show you not every person that you see on these pictures is in your building every single day, but all of the people that I'm going to be showing you have access to your staff and students for many different reasons. And some of them are so ingrained in your buildings, you would not be able to separate them from Marshalltown staff. Do you want to go to the next? You might recognize some of these people who live in your community. Some of them are here tonight. About 20 of these pictures will be terminated as of June 30th, mine being one of them. Many others face uncertainty in their positions about what it may look like, who will employ them, what their salary and benefits may be, whether they'll continue to receive IPERS. I'm not here to advocate for my job and even the job of my colleagues. I'm here because it impacts the students from Marshalltown, and I want you to have the facts so you can advocate on their behalf. This slide, you will see up on the top, there are two services that will automatically fall off of the AEA scope. These are media services and ed services. As the bill currently reads, these flow-through dollars, which are approximately $700,000 for Marshalltown, will not come back to Marshalltown. These funds will go back into the state general fund. So what you were receiving for the $7,000 will come out of your general fund to replace. So no longer will you have access to school improvement consultants, math consultants, literacy consultants. You won't have access to media and technology. So this right here shows you some of those expenses that will become yours as of June 30th. The next slide is, again, some additional information around that. Over the 22-23 school year, over 3,000 hours of professional learning were provided to Marshalltown staff by AEA at a rate of about $150 an hour, which is very cheap if you were to get an outside presenter to come in. That's about $460,000. Other things that would be impacted that you see on the bottom, currently we provide a couple what are called fee-based services. So you might not need a whole person to do this. So our agency holds those contracts and we can piece them out to district to help supplement your needs. One of those right now is work experience. So we provide a work experience coordinator 2 days a week to help support children with disabilities to gain valuable work experience services so that they can become gainfully employed in your community. Under the current bill, we will no longer be able to have any fee for services. Another fee for service that you guys utilize is we share an ELL consultant, Lisa Wymore. She's fabulous. Your district, she's just irreplaceable to your district, her knowledge, her skills, and her passion for Marshalltown. We currently provide her to you for 85 days of her contract. Again, there's a fee there. It's not like it's free, but under the current bill, we won't be able to engage in that relationship with you. Another service, and Sean brought it up earlier, that we provide, and sadly, it's being used more and more every day. We have a crisis response team that shows up on site when there are devastating events. Many people didn't know that there were over 50 AEA people serving on crisis response teams that responded to Perry. They were there before the press conference, and they were there after the press conference. At Central Rivers AEA over the last year, we have had to enact the crisis response team 11 times. For staff and student suicide or death, for storms. In my 3 years as an administrator here in Marshalltown, we have had the crisis response team on site 4 times. That will no longer be a service AEAs can provide. So something else you'll hear about the bill is that special education is going to remain with the AEAs. That's true and that's not true, right? So let's look what that looks like. Right now, Marshalltown gets a little over $2 million of flow-through funding for special education. When we cost ratioed it out for all the special ed services that currently are provided to Marshalltown, and we're talking about people who have current FTE allocated to their contract to serve Marshalltown, there's a cost differential of $161,758. To have those same services provided at that same rate with that same level of expertise will cost that much in addition. We know House Study Bill 542 will require districts to opt in or out of an AEA system by April 30th. That's not very long away. When you opt in or out, you'll opt in for a 2-year period. This next slide shows a little bit about what that looks like. So we have speech language pathologists. Team reps include school psychologists, special ed consultants, school social workers, OTs, PTs. You can read it all the way down the line. These are highly skilled, highly educated people. These are hard resources to find. Every year when we are trying to hire, there are fewer and fewer of these people available. And many of them with their jobs on the line and this degree of uncertainty are looking outside of education. There's other services on the right you'll see that we do not include in the funding, but all of our districts have access to, which would include support when a child receives a brain injury, our challenging behavior team, our autism team, mediation if anything goes to due process, professional learning. But one of the larger points to the last one that I wanted to cover was property. Under House Study Bill 542, all property as of June 30th will be surrendered to the state. This is our Marshalltown office. We're really proud of our Marshalltown office. We host a lot of professional learning. Marshalltown staff are in there just as much as our agency staff. It also employs people in this community. Our secretaries, our custodial staff, they also will be terminated. The building will be surrendered to the state.
And that's a former school building that we either gifted to the AEA.
Yep. Our other resources on my left, I'm not sure what it is for you guys, that's all of our physical therapy equipment. So for school districts, when we have a child who requires equipment, we have loaner equipment to help supplant that need in our school districts. On the right, this is here in Marshalltown. That's our brand new state-of-the-art hearing booth. Many community children have been able to visit the hearing booth, have their hearing tested, and families can be assured whether their child does or does not have a hearing loss. I came to you tonight to share information with you. so that you can advocate for your district. But I also want to assure you that we as an agency in our existence today have a steadfast commitment to your district, your staff, and your students. That though this is occupying to our minds and our hearts, it will not disrupt our services. We continue to want to be a willing partner with the Department of Ed. We've asked to be at the table. As an AEA system, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Is there room for increased efficiency? Absolutely. I think we can say that about any entity. But right now, we're not at the table. As I've reached out to my representatives, I've encouraged them, don't listen to me, but to listen to you. The boards, the administrators, and the superintendents. You know your districts. So I encourage you to advocate for your kids in whatever capacity that is for you. And if you have any questions that I can support you in, please feel free to reach out. Does anybody have any questions?
So I have a few comments. For those on the board and our student board reps, you'll remember when we attended a legislative forum in early December hosted by the East Marshall School District. And during that session, Senate Education Chair Rosenboom had shared what, in very short, the governor's priorities were as he understood them. And you might recall that I was very prompt in standing up and commenting and questioning, and I think I used the phrase loosely, dismantling or blowing up the AAs. And when I look at your chart with all of the highlighted or blacked out services, he took offense to use of that comment, as the governor also conditioned her speech with. And I don't know how you say that's anything but dismantling, especially when those services, of which I count 51 in your summary that we've posted, of which Marshtown uses a preponderance and some a lot more than others, but we use a large majority of those. And $738,000, which helps support those services being provided, goes away, leaving us without services and having to dip into our existing funds to pay for those services. This is my 39th year in education, 32 of which have been as a building or district administrator, where I've been more attuned to the AAA services. And when they talk about scope creep, to be honest with you, I don't think the scope of the AAs have creeped any more than just districts have creeped in order to meet the needs of students, parents, staff, etc. And I would contend that in a district, to the AAs being first in response to helping support needs that school districts have, if it's not from that, it's due to legislative mandates, which are then delegations from the Department of Education for the AA to be the boots on the grounds and create that service. I, after having been a part of a number of conversations with Urban Education Network, representatives from school administrators of Iowa, the Rural School Advocacy of Iowa group, and our local AA executive director, I've crafted a resolution on behalf of the Marshtown Community School District School Board that I would like to read and then seek board approval of, so that we can use this to advocate further with our local legislators, as well as with, at a minimum, the House Education Committee and possibly the Senate Education Committee. Bear with me because it's lengthy. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds' recent condition of the state report, followed by the introduction of HSB 542 in the Iowa House of Representatives, have created many concerns relative to how school districts will be able to meet the current and future needs of all Iowa students. The The Marshtown Community School District commends Governor Reynolds and the Iowa House of Representatives for recognizing the need for and the importance of raising the minimum salaries for beginning and veteran teachers statewide to attract and retain a high-quality teacher workforce more effectively. We will need to learn more about how it will work and its financial sustainability. We would highly recommend this provision be its own bill to be debated and voted on for its own merit. The portion of House Study Bill 542 that we have strong opposition to is related to the reorganization of Iowa's 9 area education agencies and the process for which this proposal came about. As currently understood, a summary of key points of the bill are as follows. Amy mentioned most of these. The AA system will essentially dissolve, and a new division of the Department of Education overseeing special education will be created. The bill calls for the addition of 139 compliance and oversight positions to the new provision, 29 of which I believe have already been posted prior to this being enacted into law. The AAs will be prohibited from providing any services in the instructional services and media realm. The bill specifically bans a fee-for-service model in these areas. Districts will no longer levy a property tax for those two areas and will be required to lower their total property tax levy in their budget by the corresponding amount. Dollars districts have been levying and flowing through to the AAs in these areas will be gone and not replaced. This would amount to the Marshtown Community School District losing funding for media and educational services at the cost of $738,947. The funding that schools are allowed to levy for special ed services will go directly to districts. Districts can choose how to use those funds to provide services for special needs students, including their regional agency. I can say with confidence that of all of the districts that I've had the pleasure of talking with, most notably the 30 largest districts in the state of Iowa, excluding Des Moines, who has been on its own for a while, all of them have agreed that it is not realistic under the best of circumstances to make a determination by April 30th as to where we would receive special ed services. And even if it were July 1st, there would not be the time to be able to safely and fairly evaluate and construct a framework for providing those services. And as you alluded to, it would cost us more than we're currently getting in with the flow through. I believe, and this is just a self-anecdote, that there's been at least one, if not two, studies in my career when districts have raised concern about the level of service that they've had that have shown that the only district that has the size and fiscal capacity to service themselves as the AA serves all other districts is Des Moines. And I don't know that anything's changed in that regard. Funds for professional development and mental health services will shift to the DE, approximately $5.4 million. An additional $20 million will also shift to the DE for the special ed division. Multiple AEA staff and administrator positions will be dissolved. The coincidence of the Iowa Department of Education already posting numerous special ed jobs that currently exist within our 9 AEA regional offices is troubling. Whereas districts have extensively utilized AEA services to enhance curriculum instruction and professional development, and the need to replace these services raises questions about responsible parties associated with costs and funding sources. Be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize additional responsibility placed on schools for administering and serving special education support programs, challenges particularly faced by rural and smaller schools in finding qualified staff for this purpose, concerns about the logistics and capacity if schools opt for alternative special education services. Whereas some districts have successfully developed mental health services in collaboration with AEAs and school social workers, shared between AAs and districts have positively impacted student well-being. Be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize there are potential consequences of the bill prohibiting the sharing of mental health services by AAs and the risk of schools having to search for alternative mental health services for students. Whereas some districts have established valuable relationships with the AA staff, contributing to student services and staff growth, and the Department of Education's directive for AAs to serve schools in certain ways lacks trust and respect in some cases. Be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize the potential loss of relationships if the proposed plan is enacted, and the lack of trust between districts and the Department of Education in their capacity and ability to provide equitable support for all Iowa school districts given these proposed changes. Whereas discussions on mission creep question whether AAs are exceeding their designated roles, and many services and functions performed by the AA have been requested or designated over the years by various entities, be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize that they need to address the question of responsibility, stating if AAs do not provide certain services, an alternative solution must be identified. Whereas rural districts are anticipated to face the greatest impact due to challenges in finding appropriate support staff, be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize the potential disproportionate impact on rural districts and pledge to address their unique challenges. Whereas the progression of the bill needs to slow down and communication to AAs, to and with AAs and districts regarding potential changes to the AA system has been minimal, be it resolved that the Iowa legislature recognize the need for open conversations and collaboration involving stakeholders familiar with the AA's work, and the need for dialogue amongst appropriate stakeholders on ways AAs can adapt and improve their structure and services. The final resolution that I'm asking the board to act on reads, on January 16th, 2024, the Marshtown Community School District School Board resolves to preserve essential educational support services, address concerns surrounding the proposed changes, and advocate for thorough communication and collaboration involving all relevant stakeholders. To echo what Amy had said, I don't think anybody within the AA system, including the executive directors, just like school districts, are opposed to the idea that greater efficiencies and effectiveness should always be sought as part of a continuous improvement process. What this is asking for is to step back to research and for the legislature to step back, further research and study ways that can happen without reducing the level of services that our students, our teachers, our buildings, our parents, and our community deserve.
Questions or comments for either Amy or for Dr. Schutte? So as I understand it, and we've got this slide up, the services that the AAA currently provides, you will be most of them, you'll no longer be allowed to provide.
Correct.
Are school districts, is the DE going to be providing those, or school district themselves supposed to be providing those? Does anyone have any idea what's supposed to happen?
So all of the services that we currently supply through media and technology and school improvement, all of that funding will go back to the state. So those flow through dollars that are currently coming to Marshalltown, the money will go to the state. So if you want to continue to receive those, you would have to seek them out as a district.
You have to do it yourself?
Yes.
With the funding you already have?
Right.
Okay.
So they're not using that funding to put like Department of Education services in place to provide for the school districts?
That funding is going back into their general fund.
Okay, not going to the DOE.
And I believe, Randy, you can help me, but I believe it's that funding that we're having to reduce our tax levy based on, isn't it?
Correct.
To
So
positively reduce.
the money that has supported that will actually go away.
This is a 123-page bill, which I read over the weekend.
The one other caveat I think that I didn't address, it does open up for private businesses as well. So within that, a district can shop around for private services and kind of the competition, let the competition begin.
I would argue there's soft cost involved with that as well.
Absolutely.
Ironically, I think what will or would happen is that districts will have to band together to create their own collaboratives that would mirror what the AA was doing in order to be able to afford those services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the 139 positions that the E is going to have, what are those positions?
Those will all be overseeing special education. So those would be compliance pieces. So right now, AEAs have what's considered general supervision over the district's special education programming. And so by stripping the AEAs down, all of that will be removed. Whatever's left of the AEAs will just be staff that serve. Any oversight will now go to the Department of Ed, which instead of local control, it will be state control. Any other questions for me? All right, I really appreciate your guys' time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Is there any discussion or questions for Dr. Schutte on his proposed resolution?
Do we need to approve?
Yep. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
Move to approve.
Second.
Hernandez, was it Sarah? Hernandez Faltis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Stacy.
Good evening. I'm Stacy Toole Crawford, the district lead nurse for the Marshtown Schools. Gosh, to have to follow that.
Yeah, you got a tough. Yeah, it's not a great way to come up here as a Stacy.
Well, mine's just really simple. After reviewing the student handbooks, it's a little late. It's kind of off timing here. Just noted a few things related to health services that need to be updated. I'll just go through them quickly here. In the elementary handbook, paragraph 1, page 1, the read it out sentence there, it wasn't very clear in regards to how we would notify parents if a student was injured. So in the yellow there, we just wanted to clarify if treatment is needed beyond basic first aid, parents will be notified. The second amendment would be on the school health services on page 4. The red portion, it says that, a school nurse is full-time basis, 8 hours in the school building. As we know, we have difficulties with having sub-nurses, and so we do have trained personnel in buildings that will sometimes cover if a nurse can't be there. So we just wanted to clarify that, and in the yellow there, it does just say if the school nurse is not available, a sub-nurse or other trained staff will provide first aid and medication administration. So we wanted to update that. And then in the elementary handbook as well as the high school handbook, we have a little graphic that talks about when to keep your students home and when they can return. And in both of them, the APA, the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as the Iowa HHS, in regards to infectious illness, strep throat, and pink eye, it used to always be recommended that they had to be on an antibiotic for 24 hours before they can return, and that no longer is necessarily the case. And so we have various providers. Some say 12 hours, some say You can come back as long as you're washing your hands right after you've been diagnosed. So we just wanted to put on there, and I see that it's not quite on, and we just will follow provider recommendation is when, we'll go under when to return, when your student can return to school. And that will, the read it out will be gone, and it will say follow provider recommendation. And the only other thing, and I don't think that it's, up there in yellow where it says, this is in the elementary handbook, where it says students are not permitted to carry or take over-the-counter medication unless administered by the school nurse, and we just are going to have added to or trained staff if the school nurse is not there. Any questions?
Stacy,
Yes.
your staff's done a great job all around. The only concern I have is at the elementary level. I think it's important that we stay up front with the parents of what's going on. And your staff in the past has done a great job with the apps or whatever they use to say the kid saw the nurse today, fell off the monkey bars, whatever it was. And by taking that out, I think it, just being transparent, letting the families know, hey, definitely at the elementary level, builds that trust process.
Absolutely. So let's look at this again. So if treatment is needed beyond basic first aid, so to us, and certainly a nurse, if there was any type of injury at all, they would notify the parent. Even if there was just a little, scab on the knee, they would still notify parents of that. But if it was just a running and playing and they fell down, popped back up, that would not require. So do you feel like this, tell me, you feel that is?
I'm okay with that. That's, like you said, if there's a cut,
Yeah.
you let with somehow form of communication.
Absolutely. And that's not even without hesitation, the school nurse would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Other questions?
All right.
Not, is there a motion to approve the elementary and Marshall High School handbooks as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Wall, Stanley, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Hi.
Happy first day of the second semester. So I'm here to review quickly and get approval of our course manual for the upcoming school year, as we will begin registration here very shortly, so that we can have our master schedule ready to go. So on the cover page, obviously, we're making a change to the year to make it clear that we're moving into the next year. And then on page 3 in my letter, I very specific point out some of the career pathways that we have for students at the high school. This spring, we will be adding nursing in the high school. In fact, tomorrow will be their first day of classes. We have 12 students in one section and 11 in another, and a staff member is participating in a class to become a certified nurse's aide. So it's pretty exciting to see that happen, and I look forward to being able to show that to you. On page 4, again, we just added accounting. We have students who start out with a first year of accounting at the high school, and then they go on to take accounting at MCC, which is what is strongly encouraged. Throughout the table of contents, you will see highlights and cross-outs of courses that have become obsolete, like advanced accounting, for example, and courses that have been added. So there's lots of updates there, and we link those in the digital document that will eventually end up on our website. So that all through the table of contents. At the beginning of the page that says acceleration, keep going beyond the table of contents, very next section.
Page 9.
9.
9.
Hopefully it's okay. There it is. Changed the board policy, so we try to get a lot of different eyes on this document because it's so long. The acceleration policy is now policy 505.2. I appreciate those who helped me with finding that. And then if you hop to page 13, I double-checked the language because there's been some changes at the colleges, the region schools regarding admissions and things like that since COVID. So there was a little bit of strange wording there that I updated for Iowa State regarding engineering having foreign language requirement. And then on page 15, there's some changes that occurred with the NCAA athletic eligibility. Again, these correspond now to what they have on their website, so that students know they need to get themselves registered to be athletes at those levels and what it takes. So there's some information that was also deleted, again, just in alignment with their websites. Same thing for NAIA. And then you'll see some edits beginning on page 16 regarding dual credit options, taking the college level exam program or the CLEP. There was a new contact on page 17, but throughout, we are trying to be very straightforward with students on drop dates with their college classes because it impacts not only their college transcript, but also their high school transcript because they are getting credits for both. And so if they are not paying attention to those drop dates, then they're going to earn an F, which definitely impacts things for them. So that date changes, so we just changed it to MCC's designated withdrawal date, which we communicate very, 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 very many times for our students that they need to take care of that as soon as possible, especially if we see that they're failing prior to. In addition, I did change, MCC is no longer using Blackboard. They use Canvas like we do at the high school for their learning management system. And I believe today was their first day of their semester as well, and the students are all virtual today yesterday because of the weather. Some changes on page 18 regarding how we will use test score requirements. There you can see in bullet number 3. The student who is not showing proficiency on the ISAS, who then has to take the AccuPlacer and just keeps jumping through these hoops, we are going to work with that student, even if it comes down to analyzing their transcript to see how they've been doing in the subject area that corresponds to the college class that they're taking. And if they've done well at the high school, then we will work with them to have them sign an acceptance of responsibility and, of course, monitor that student's progress as they go. But we want every student to have an opportunity to take those college-level classes while they're still in high school. If you hop over, get another edit with the designated withdrawal date on page 21. We just want to be consistent throughout this document. So no matter where parents or students are looking, they're getting the same wording. On page 24 in the questions and answers, we do not administer the plan or the compass anymore. We administer just the AccuPlacer or use ACT test scores. On question number 8, there's a question about should I plan my classes so I can have an easy senior year? Which,
every student's different.
Every student, right? They covet that. One of the things that I really wanted to clarify is that in the 8th grade, students write their 4-year plan. And every year after that, they examine that 4-year plan to see if it's still true. Maybe I've changed the career pathway I want to go, so I'm going to take a different set of courses. And so they make changes to their 4-year plan. So could a student plan to have senior year off? Sure, if they develop it in 8th grade and stick to it. We, of course, want them to take advantage of the opportunities that the district provides for them to take secondary or post-secondary options, whether it's in a career field or just in a transfer diploma. Either way, we would like them to use that time, which I think most of our representatives have done. In 17, we also took out some edits. We want to make it clear that early morning courses are offered based on student selections, not based on what we would like to offer, but what the students are requesting to be offered. Then on page 26, there's that 4-year plan for high school, the minimum that students need to have. Of course, they have some options for their electives, and I just included new courses that are available to them so that they know that like for example, in sophomore year, there are 3 semesters of American history that are offered, but they only have to take 2 and they can choose any 2 of the 3. So that's new for them. And then of course, personal fitness was added as well as another psychology course in abnormal psychology. We'll talk about that in a minute. On page 27, the ag department, Ms. Gray has really grown the agriculture program, as you know, just started about 3 or 4 years ago. And so you can see the different pathways that students can take in ag. And if we actually offered all of these courses, I wouldn't have enough teacher. She's a pretty busy lady. She's really building out the FFA program with it, but she's wants to offer a program called, or biology class called Ag Biology, which is a little bit different, same standards, but different context in terms of the context of agriculture. On page 29, I took out the codes for the standards because most people wouldn't understand those. So it's a little bit redundant, make it easier to read. And then she's offering the principles of agronomy as well as a supervised ag experience towards that senior year capstone. Those are both college level courses, so that would qualify for dual enrollment. Those, however, would be through Ellsworth Community College, which is a division of the Iowa Valley Community College District. So it'd be neat to see kiddos get to that level. The next department is the art department. We added a photo so that students understand they have to take Art 1 before they can take any other art courses. And the art department has requested that on page 34 under digital photography, that students are made aware that they can only take that class one time. We do offer advanced digital photography, which you can take multiple times. But they want to save digital photography as an intro class and then encourage kids to take that advanced level. In the business department, you'll see some courses that were deleted. That's page 38. Some that are deleted because they're obsolete. We no longer need them. An example would be on page 41, the consumer econ and personal finance. All students are required to take a course like that based on a board decision that was made last year. And so that's a duplicate of the same course that's called Iowa Financial Literacy. So no one's been requesting in the past few years, so we'll just take it out of the course guide. In addition, so then there's also advanced consumer econ. Entrepreneurship on page 42 is not new. However, the course that was called Let's Make Money is now called Entrepreneurship 2. We just moved that over in the course guide into the business department. Ethical leadership, nobody's been asking to take that, so we'll just remove it from the course guide, just to make, because it is 127 pages long. So just make room, make sense, and unclutter it. In the English department, we added a photo so students know that they have electives that they can take that count towards their senior English credit. We're hoping that's, I guess that's one way you can open up your senior year is take some of those electives early on, like drama and creative writing. English 10 Honors on page 49 has just adjusted the prerequisite for English 10 Honors. Basically, if you're successful in English 9 or English 9 Honors, you can choose to take English 10 Honors. It's not a prerequisite other than passing. I think that's it for English, so let's hop over, Abby, to page 59, the Family and Consumer Science Department. Again, a picture to show the pathways that are available under the FCS. You can go through the foods, culinary program, education, fashion, or other. And notice that there are 2 education graphs there. One of those is for a child development associate, which our own Emily Banks is the teacher of that, and students can earn a certificate or that credential that we really think is important, and then work in preschools and daycares. Whereas the other one is more of a traditional pathway to becoming a teacher. You can continue to go become a teacher on the Child Development Associate as well. All right, that was FCS. Let's see. The next department is Industrial Arts Technology. It looks like I do a little bit of editing here. Again, a photo to describe the different courses that are available there and help kids make some decisions, especially if they know what their pathway is going to be. Then on to the math department. Some big changes made here. Again, there's a photo, but you will notice that there is not an Algebra 1A. So that's going to be removed so that students graduated from Marshalltown High School take the Algebra 1 Geometry Algebra 2 sequence. And the challenge for students who were starting in Algebra 1A, then doing Algebra 1B, they would take geometry and get their 3 maths and be done. But we know that they need to take Algebra 2 to move on to that post-secondary experience. So we don't want them to be eliminated from that opportunity because of the course sequencing. We have visited with the math department, and what we will do is for some students who need extra support, like the ones who are using the Math Center right now, we will continue to offer like a skinny class for them to work with their own math teacher on building the background knowledge they need to have in order to be successful for Algebra 1. So that's new for us, and hoping things will fade out Algebra 1B after the next school year. Next one is in the physical education department. Again, a photo of all of the opportunities available for students to sign up for based on their interest and lifelong learning regarding physical education. The new course is called Personal Performance, which is on page 93. And actually, I'm not sure if any of our students have been participating, but during E&R, Mr. Goodvin and Mr. Mann, Coach Mann, have been running 2 groups of kids through this running program, that's literally a running program, giving them more ways to improve their performance through some personalization. So this is like an advanced level of strength and conditioning. Okay. And I think that came about because of student interest. In the science department, the high school chemistry had a pretty rigorous, kids couldn't take high school chemistry unless they had completed geometry in the past, and so they've changed that to completion of Algebra 1. We would like to see more kids, again, in that high school chemistry. That's you'll see under high school chemistry and some of the other courses where it says RAI, that's a Regions Admissions Index, and they earn points when they are trying to figure out, gain entry into college. And so the more core classes, like this lab course that they take, the more points that they get. And that's a way kids can control their RAI score. It's by the courses that they sign up for.
Jackie?
Yes.
Back on the PE, in the course description for personal performance, it says course description, briefly describe the course. Focus on content. It's like the generic.
Oh, thank you. We'll get it changed.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I will get that changed. Put a little sticky wrap. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
No problem.
Back in science, there was a little bit of wording changed pre-Gen Chem, which is the precursor to Gen Chem 1, which is a course that's dual credit. Both of those had slight changes in the wording there, very slight. Almost done, guys, sorry. In social studies, we added that new course called Modern U.S. History. Again, it's one of 3 semester courses where kids can choose 1 or 2, or 2 of any of the 3. We're hoping, and this would be some of the more fun things that have occurred since Vietnam. That's what that Modern U.S. History would be about. And we also needed to add that, so we met Chapter 12 with the Department of Ed, so we have our offer and teach. We have not been meeting that. Abnormal psych will also help us on page 108. On page 109, contemporary U.S. issues, students continue to not request that, so we're going to remove that from the course guide. 2 more notes. IJAG on page 115, it's Iowa's Jobs for America's Graduates, has the 9th to 10th grade level, as well as the 11th and 12th grade course level. They've asked us to provide a different description of the course, and so you will see that there highlighted. And finally, the World Language Department really want to emphasize to students that the mastery of a second language on page 127 will open doors to any career you are interested in. And that is the end of this 127-page document. It's 132, actually.
Just an observation. Vietnam War, 50-plus years ago, Lego League said anything older than 45 was old.
Oh, well, I'm definitely old then, Dr. Shooter. But there have obviously been some conflicts, right? And what's going on now in the world right now? So things that they could study.
Well, unquestionably, one of the district's strengths are the wide variety of options that our high school kids have, whether they be directly on MHS campus or through the dual credit options and that sort of thing. What are the areas that you have been seeing in the recent past that are really booming in terms of student interest and that sort of thing?
Well, the primary one I mentioned previously was ag. Lots. You have to take intro to ag before you can take any other course. And if you're going to be in FFA, and she's up to almost 50 students in FFA, that's a career and technical student organization, which is required to be in place by the school year 24-25. She's way ahead of the ball, the curve on that. Kids are, we have one student who is not auditioning, interviewing to be on a state level board. That's how quickly she's moving students through. Over winter break, they came in and they were practicing different competitions that they do in this FFA. I don't know a lot about FFA, but those kids were committed. And I remember having gone on the computers and I was thinking, why are there people I was looking on the cameras, why are there people in the school right now? And as I was looking around, they were all sitting at different tables and they were doing their presentation to each other. And so it was pretty cool what she was doing with that. The culinary program, the FCS program is exploding. I have to temper my counselors because they want to get a lot of kids in there, but when you're doing all the hands-on things that they're doing, whether it's industrial arts, technology, or family consumer sciences, you really shouldn't have over 24 kids in a class. When you've got 4 kids and 6 kitchens, you got to watch everything because there's knives and there's fire and heat and ovens going, and you got to have mitts. There's just a lot of safety issues. And even with a sewing machine, you don't want somebody to get their finger underneath the sewing. You've all heard nightmares of people getting their finger in there and cutting. And so those classes are booming just as well. And industrial arts technology, we've been pretty good at serious safety concerns in those areas when you're operating machinery. And those classes stay underneath 20, but they are right at that 20. Lots of kids like hands-on things. Art classes continue to be popular as well.
So you brought up a good point that sometime in the near future we'll be needing to bring stipend positions forward because it's now been mandated through the federal government that all of the career and technical education areas have a corresponding student group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or CTSO.
Yeah, so similar to FFA, we'll need to establish a group for business, family, consumer science, industrial arts. Mm-hmm. Hopefully technology will be grouped with business. So
yes, we are very busy. And some of you may be aware that in the past we had a Google site that kind of illustrated this via the career clusters, the 16 career clusters. So the students picked on a career cluster and it would send you to the courses related to the career cluster, and it would tie in, and at the bottom you could see all of the pathways in that career cluster available at Marshtown Community College. So, we're really emphasizing that this one thing leads to that thing and takes you on to whatever path that you would like to do. So Abby's been helping us, and Jane Vermolm used to work for the TR. She's a great editor. She's been working on that website, trying to get everything together. So there's still a lot of things we have to learn about the website and things that it can do, but we'll try to get something that corresponds with the course guide. Because, you can go to the table of contents, and it'll keep sending you back. If you go to a math class, you can click and go back to the table of contents. But there's a lot of going back and forth, and I think a website's probably a little more user-friendly and fun to look at. So we'll get that going. She's just about done.
I appreciated the pictures.
Correct.
It was really helpful to see like what the course offerings were and what you needed to take this, and yeah, I liked it. So
Yeah, that's good to hear.
if you could,
That's helpful. We're parents too. We want parents to be involved with their child's selection as well.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Unbelievable, everything we offer. I think the high school sets us apart around our county, what we offer. A couple of things I did have questions on. When I was in college, they wanted me to take golf or a bowling class. And I chose at that point, can I get out of this and get a double major? Luckily I was, but I was looking at the PE course. If a student did sports or some activity outside, can they fill in one of these other classes in that? Or the law say we have to still, even they're in other sports?
So a lot of athletes do end up taking independent PE so they can fill in their schedule. But what I'm not interested in doing is just giving them more time away from school.
Gotcha. Yep.
So you can imagine how that turns out, and
Yep.
again, we want them to take advantage of the opportunities that the board is providing. When we finance all of the different classes at a community college for them to begin their college education, not have so much debt, maybe start as a sophomore or junior, and possibly go on real quickly in 4 years and finish their master's versus 6 years or 7 years that it might take to get their master's, if that's the pathway that they're going. But yes, we do have some students. I probably have over 100 students who are in the independent PE and can quickly log in all of their hours. And then there are some few questions about health and nutrition along the way as well, not just logging in the hours.
And the other couple questions I have is entrepreneurship with the culinary and some other stuff happening. I think the community, the kids are excited, but what about downtown the Orpheum? Is there anything planned down the road with some entrepreneurship?
Yes, and that's where our board visit is going to be, is right down there, and we're going to talk to the teachers who are doing some work-based learning opportunities with kids out of the Orpheum. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the 24-25 high school course guide as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Faltis Hernandez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Girls?
Afternoon. Good afternoon. I sent you it the January 16th.
You sent it directly to me?
Mm-hmm.
Have some music we can play while we're waiting for Amy to do this. I assume a lot of us are humming the Jeopardy theme in our head? Okay.
So January 16th, student report. So yesterday, our roundhouse was really busy with the Iowa caucus night. And despite the cold weather, over 1,000 people showed up. And I know from a lot of students, they weren't aware that it was in our roundhouse. So it was pretty cool for them to find out too.
The band, the MHS band, is hosting a pasta night tomorrow. If any of you guys are interested in going,
Tonight.
5:30 to 7.
And there's pasta for you in there.
Oh,
It's tonight.
It's the 16th? Isn't today the 15th?
No, today.
Oh. The 16th? I thought it was tomorrow.
Oh, I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the MHA student section showed their support with Perry at the home basketball game on January 5th. So they all wore blue.
And then we have the NHS service project. So this year we're going to be working on our project of the year. And so we're looking forward on starting a book drive at the MHS in order to create or host a reading night at the Orpheum where NHS students will be reading to elementary students for half of the time, and the other half of the time will be coloring activities. And so this book drive will be able to give those books to elementary students, which they can take home. And then more details and dates will be provided and further discussed in our NHS meeting tomorrow if the weather permits us. We ended up having to cancel yesterday and last week, so. Yep. Any questions?
Sounds like a fun project.
Love the idea of using the Orpheum for that also.
Yeah.
Today is the 16th. It really is.
It says right here. Are we going to discuss the book right here?
Yeah, we can stay.
Okay.
Okay. Should we pivot to the book?
Should we? Oh, wow. That was nice.
Okay.
I have my notes on my phone, so.
Okay. I'm just impressed you took notes.
So this is our first discussion of the first two chapters relative to the book Pivot. Ravi Husing, who many of us heard present as a keynote speaker at the Iowa Association of School Boards convention, who we've also contracted with to come next fall to do some work with our staff as well as students and have a parent community meeting as well. So one thing Sean and I were talking about before the meeting was a lot of the first two chapters were redundant in terms of the stories that he told when he was presenting. But it kind of sets the stage for what he centers the book around: 4 pivotal areas: inspiring curiosity, recognizing and nurturing talent, provoking critical thinking, and fostering communication as the essential skills for people being able to self-learn, which is a lot of what he talks about. This kind of spoke towards it a little bit, but when he introduced himself, he talked about how he kind of was on a traditional path through secondary school, and then even though his parents wanted him to go on to college, he knew that that wasn't a good fit for him, and then he fell into being a rock star with the group Hanson, lead guitarist for them, which was big for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it was not big. And so he had to pivot without a college education to something else he was passionate about. So he self-learned how to fly planes, and then was able to use also his experiences to put on workshops and presentations on a variety of issues, but primarily I think how music could be used to help bring different people from different cultures together. So there was a quote that I think I saw twice in the first two chapters, which I really, really liked. It was from someone from a school board association, an executive director. I'm not sure what state, but the quote was, "Cultural competence is the pathway to equity. Equity is the pathway to equality. And equality is the pathway to world peace," which I thought was pretty insightful. Those were my takeaways.
Other thoughts anybody wants to share?
I like the lifelong learning about how, you know, when you're younger, it's the teacher and the student, and then it pivots to you and a mentor. And so then I was thinking back, like, well, who have been my mentors in my life as I'm an adult? So, you know, and there's been many. So I thought that that was really important, that those relationships that people you might not think are, you know, instrumental in your life really are. So that was, I thought, a good point.
And that's a string that continues into like your work life after. I mean, it's something we talk about as a corporation all the time. We want lifelong learners. Who's your mentor? Who are you mentoring? How do you keep pulling that string and those connections to continuously grow and evolve? So I picked up on that as well. And then also they're talking a lot about, he was talking about each person had to take ownership of their role throughout that process. So I thought that's valid as well as you continue on. The other thing I made note of was, you know, he talks a couple of times about cultural competence and how cultural competence, I just highlighted this as the most important skill for the future. And we see that being able to relate to people, no matter where they come from or what their background is or their history, is very important in a business, like as one of those lifelong learning skills. So I think that's something that you see as a theme for the rest of your life.
A couple takeaways. Curious, anybody singing in the background or reading the first two chapters of the Hanson song? Remember that song? All right. Yeah, I know. It's hard. Couple things, and I don't have the exact page, but it talked about thinking about, you know, I think we use the word career ready, whatnot. What does that look like going in the future? And with AI and there's percentage with age 40%, somewhere in there, some point those jobs are not going to be there. And so it'll be interesting as we go through the book, what's the recommendation? What are they thinking? Because although we want to be equal, try to be equal as we can, I think sometimes people thrive on advancing their career. The other thing too that stood out on chapter 2, the quote he put, and I think, you know, if anybody could figure this out, you know, we can be a better place as a world. But the title of the chapter was "World Peace is Possible If We Make It Profitable." Think about that. We had a leader once say, "World peace is that it says, he said, money trumps peace sometimes. What does that mean? It means, commercial interests sometimes come first, and that's what happens in our world sometimes, unfortunately. So how do we get around that? I don't know. I'll be interested to go through the book and read it.
I was actually able to make a personal connection with the book, where on page 6 he was talking about how the most important thing one needs to master is how to learn. And then he goes on about talking about the pillars of learning. And in the pillars of learning, he talked about provoking critical thinking. And right now I'm taking a course at the high school, general chemistry with Mr. Freeze. And one thing that he really tries to hammer into us is to use critical thinking and learn how to use critical thinking, because most of our life we've just been told how to solve problems instead of how to solve problems on our own, And I feel like making that switch from just being told how to do something to being to learning how to solve your own problems is definitely something that I was really stuck on for a little bit, and I would get irritated with him, and I was like, why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you guiding me? But after reading this, I realized that he was really just trying to teach me how to learn and how to progress as a student. And I'm thankful for that now.
I can also relate to Giselle's testimony. I also am taking that course. And for me, critical thinking is stepping away from shallow learning and finally making your learning your own. So for example, before high school or dual credit courses, I thought that the courses that I was taking was being spoon-fed. I didn't really resonate to the courses at all, and it felt unnecessary. But once I could personalize my own learning and actually take challenging courses, that's when I felt more committed to my learning, and it kind of made me grow personally as a person.
Anything else from anybody?
One of the I'm sure he'll speak to it, and he did a little bit in the first 2 chapters, but it made me think about, in our circumstance where we have to put so much focus on, how do we get more kids to proficiency, in literacy and math and probably eventually science, when we know kids learn at different rates and it takes different amounts of time. How do we balance that need for that foundational learning, which gets a lot of attention, with the authentic learning experiences, the personalized learning experiences, the hands-on learning experiences, which tend to be fun experiences and engaging experience for students. So, how do we meld those two and not lose sight as we have heavy emphasis on the one test score that we get held accountable to? How do we also make sure that we're providing authentic learning experiences that are relevant, engaging for students, which will hopefully naturally lift the boat relative to the proficiencies as well?
The statement in the book that addressed that, I felt was, he made a statement, something around, we don't have an education. There's not a public education problem, there's a poverty problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of feel that.
Yeah. Okay. Chapters 3 and 4 for next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Is he coming?
girls, if you leave early, take dinner with you.
Hello. This is one of two tonight, but I'm in E-rate season, so you'll see me a lot more over the next few months. Should I wait for Dr. Schutte?
No.
No? Okay, perfect. So, as you know, the Orpheum is hosting state esports. To successfully host state esports, you have to have at least 40 PCs. So, we already have a really nice esports room. It's very difficult to take down a full lab, move it across town, set it all up. So I wanted to be very purposeful when asking for more computers because we wanted to make sure we weren't just being redundant just to have an easy thing at the Orpheum. So we found these computers. They're called Nook computers, and they're about this big, and they can act as an esports machine. But they also can serve some other purposes, and they're very easy to move back and forth. So I've already tested on some of them, and some of the video production that I do in my class can be done on Nooks at the Orpheum. And then we're also thinking about a lab that needs replaced at the high school eventually, that something this size could easily be packed up and moved back and forth. So I believe that these, I think they're 40 computers would be, or sorry, 20 computers would be sufficient to make up for half of what we need for state esports, and then also have an instructional component to them, specifically in the area of the Unity and Unreal design, which is like esports video game design, and then video production as well. So I'm proposing that we buy 20 computers for that purpose.
How many, okay, so we need 40 basically for state.
Mm-hmm. So luckily we have a great partnership with Bytespeed, the company that I am suggesting we go through, and they will loan us 20 computers for each time. So that has been a really great partnership, and those are things that we're continuing to seek out for the state esports tournament, where we have sponsors and that sort of thing to ease the burden of any cost associated with the tournament, such as McDine is a great partner. We partner also with the National Guard, so there was a dairy partnership last time. So we're definitely seeking to ensure that this isn't something totally run by the school district. But this would be really helpful instructionally and for the tournament.
I think I love what you shared about, the possibilities with future courses or incorporation within existing courses. I think it provides us an opportunity also to do some special summer school programming potentially there. And as you are aware, we've recently adopted some animation curriculum, which is going to be piloted at MLA and Miller, I believe. And so that has some potential use down the road too. So, and it dawned on me that we probably second semester should have you and Colton come in and talk about the work you guys are doing at the Orpheum too.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
The state tournament, do people actually come in to the?
Oh, you have to come.
I mean, like, does it help the businesses in town too as well? So like our hotels and everything.
And that's kind of exactly the point of it. And maybe you are leading me there, but yes, this is definitely an attraction. It brings people that are staying in hotels. A lot of these teams will play multiple sports, and they're 2 or 3 hours away. So they'll stay in hotels, they'll eat at local restaurants. And that building just gets packed to the gills, and it's really fun. So, yes, it is a good pull to Marshalltown.
Good.
Amy, what are your thoughts about kids building their own computers so you can customize them? And, for me, all I need is Oregon Trail. But as these games get better and harder, right, we need to, how obsolete from what we buy today, how long will it last? Or can you customize it if the game requires more? How does that work? Can you explain to us?
Yes. So my course is actually called Applied Tech Solutions. And what we're doing right now is we're focusing a lot on digital production. So that could be the Unity and the Unreal that I'm talking about, where you can make video games. That could be any type of motion graphic, which you've seen the ads that we've made for the scoreboard at the stadium. It could be hype videos that you've seen on the stadium scoreboard. It could be videos such as our holiday video that we made for our district. So I say all of that because we've really been looking at digital production, but I wanted Tech Solutions to be the name of the course because we are capable of doing that sort of work. So this semester, what we're going to do is make a video podcast roundtable where we use something called OBS Studio, which any of these computers can run. And it's the way kids do shoutcasting. Anytime you've seen different little round table podcasts that are very popular right now on TikTok and Instagram and all of those, it's all using this OBS Studio. So right now I'm having the kids start from A to Z. They're actually going to have to put together the whole solution from end to end. They have to know what encoders are, decoders are, how they go into switches, how they come into the PC, and then how you switch between those digital sources. So as we build capacity in these kids, we'll get more and more techie. We kind of had to start at the very basic end of the spectrum to get to what you're talking about, and we're slowly getting there. Right now, I do think that cost would prohibit making this amount of machines, because to customize PCs at this level, we're looking at much more expensive PCs than this. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't want 2 or 3 like super machines and to teach these kids the components of it, which I already try to get them to understand the importance of GPU, that's that graphic processor, as well as CPU. So they are learning not only how to get an end product, but what the systems take to get there, which I think is I think you're kind of talking a little bit about that creation versus consumerism, and that's exactly what we're trying to get to, more of the creation and development side of things. Sorry if that was a really long-winded answer.
Okay, thank you.
I know that in the middle school CTE modular tech lab that the former teacher had actually created a unit around building a mini computer type of thing. So I know that we've got some very early exploratory stuff going on in that regard, which can then lend itself to some of the opportunities at the high school and the college too.
For this course, I actually did write a grant that we haven't necessarily utilizes all the pieces yet, but one of them does include putting together a Raspberry Pi, which is a tiny computer that you program yourself to then be able to do small tasks, basically. So those are all things that I'm trying to work in, but I have so many different levels of students and what their knowledge is that I'm really trying to personalize it based on what they like and the part of production that they like, while digging deeper to get to some of those concepts. Anyway.
Other questions? Not, is there a motion to approve the purchase of 20 gaming personal computers for the Orpheum in the amount of $26,500 as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
Faltus Stanley, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. And you want to buy some VR headsets?
Yes. Shauna wants to buy them, but
Well, she's conveniently not here. So.
Conveniently. So we've already, and Dr. Schutte can talk a little bit probably better to how we ended up with the first 60. But basically we already have these Quest headsets and they're doing really well, and Jen O'Neill has been really great at making sure that they're actually integrated into the curriculum and being used with fidelity. So as that happens, there's more need for them, but also the company Prisms is creating more content. So it's not just math, it's going into the science areas and some other areas where we would then need to get more headsets to those contents as well. And that's why this need came about. So I did present a couple different quotes, but this particular, the way to integrate this VR, it's really nice because there's what's called an MDM, a mobile device management system, that can help my team implement a lot of these devices to ensure that they're up to date and that they're getting the newest content that they need for these teachers.
Yeah, so essentially the first 2 sets of these headsets have been distributed to the middle school and high school, shared probably a little bit more with the high school until the content became available at the middle school for not only Algebra 1, but also middle school math and then geometry as well. So they've been the original headsets are used and shared amongst teachers on a schedule for math. Now we have science content available, so we're wanting to get headsets to be able to distribute amongst the science areas that will be piloting these this virtual reality.
Questions? And is there a motion to approve the purchase of 60 VR headsets from Prisms in the amount of $33,500 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Faltus Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
So school calendar, the only change, the only 2 things that were changed in the school calendar, one was just a listing when the first day of preschool is, since it differs from the first day with all other students. But the other was the inclusion of one more pre-service day, which is reflected with the August 23rd date, which is an asynchronous learning date where our employees knock out most, if not all, of their mandatory trainings. That was in lieu of, if you remember the original calendar, because we had 3 additional staff work days that were not corresponding with student days. We had shared with the staff that the intent would be that they'd work an additional 15 minutes beyond contract for the entire first semester. We had a few staff members say, hey, would you consider providing us with some additional substantive and meaningful professional development instead of 15 minutes a day for at least one or more of those days. And so we surveyed the staff. The majority of the staff that responded said they would prefer one additional pre-service or in-service day which would then, I believe, mean that they would work the extra 15 minutes till November 12th instead of the end of the first semester. So other than that, there have been no changes to the calendar that's was presented to you at the last meeting. Again, we have a late start date primarily because of the way the calendar rolls and giving that last week of August for the Career and Technical Education project at Morristown High School to best be assured of finish so that we can move in and be ready for the beginning of school. And the spring break does align with both Iowa Valley Community College District and the state universities as well. So,
any questions or comments?
Dr. Schutte, curious, I had someone in the community ask if you extended the day, like say 15 to 20 minutes a day, since we're going longer, is that possible to shorten the days we'd have to go to school?
Well, it could potentially for student contact days, but it wouldn't for how our teachers are contracted necessarily. Well, I guess it could, but I think there's a strong argument for being in school longer versus shorter. As far as our kids concerned in learning, we try to prioritize to the extent possible student contact days with teachers versus professional development days. When I came to the district, and Sean would remember this, maybe Karina, one of the first things that happened was we had a community calendar committee come before the board advocating for year-round school or balanced calendar school, where school would be spread out throughout the year, including the summer with periodic breaks in between. And that idea got derailed because the legislature mandated that high schools couldn't be on a year-round school schedule. And one of the caveats that the community felt was if we were to do this, the whole district needed to do it, not just certain buildings and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not an advocate for 4-day school weeks, and school districts are moving in that direction in Iowa and across the country for cost-saving purposes, to try to entice teachers to come to their district where maybe it's hard to get teachers. But when you think about it in terms of student learning, there's nothing that benefits student learning that's in that equation. If you look at the research and the reports that are coming out, the jury's probably still out in terms of how it impacts student learning, but in terms of the reasons that districts are doing it, it has nothing to do with student learning and more to do with how we operate as a system and be able to find teachers and that sort of thing, and save on some expenses such as don't have to transport if school's not in session and that sort of thing. So.
Any other questions or comments? And is there a motion to approve the 24-25 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Faltus Stanley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Randy,
I'm up.
you want to talk about Pepple?
I'd love to talk about Pepple.
You better, because you're going to be doing a lot of
I'm going to be doing a lot of it, that's right. So let's do it. It's all good. Okay. So yeah, I am here tonight to talk to you all about our Pepple levy. As you all are aware, it's expiring here soon, and so I'm going to give a brief presentation on our Pepple and what it is, what we've used for, and why it's important to continue it. So What is PEPL? It stands for Physical Plant and Equipment Levy, and is a tax levy authorized under Iowa Code 298.3 that allows school districts to address a variety of infrastructure needs. Next slide. PEPL is actually broken down into two sub-levies. So there's the regular PEPL tax levy. This is what you all as the board approve each year. You can levy up to 33 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. At our current property valuation rates, that generates about $400,000 per year for the district. The second portion, which is mainly what we're going to be talking about here tonight, is the voted PEPL levy. So that is authorized by the vote of the public, which is only a 50% majority. And once that is approved, it is good for 10 years. Our current levy expires on June 30th, 2025, so at the end of our fiscal year 25. Districts are allowed under law to levy up to $1.34 per $1,000 of assessed valuations if approved by the voters. Our current levy is at 67 cents. And on current property valuations, that generates about $800,000 a year for the district. We have had the 67-cent voted levy in place by the voters since 1997, and it has been renewed every 10 years since. So why is it important? And why are we talking about it now when it expires, what, a year plus from now? It's because we're only allowed certain times during the year that we can have election dates to have the renewal of the levy. So between now and the expiration of our levy, we only have 3 possible election dates that we can use, with the next one being March 5th, 2024. We rely on these funds to cover many crucial infrastructure needs for the district, as we mentioned. We've identified these to fall into 4 major categories for the district, that being buildings and grounds, safety and security, transportation, and technology. So what have we used it for? So under buildings and grounds, as some of you may recall, Todd has usually been in front of the board each year requesting approval for his summer projects. So that's a lot of our annual repairs for the district, roof, door replacements, parking lot replacements, boiler repairs, all of that comes out of our PEPL funding. A lot of our small equipment, so here in the last week, we got a lot of use out of our plows and small vehicles. All of that is paid for out of PEPL. Safety and security, these are items that are addressed. We have annual safety audits with our insurance company. We've also had safety and security audits through the state, as well as EMC, a more in-depth safety and security audit here in the last couple of years. Those items take care of concrete, sidewalk repairs, playground surfaces, etc. Other safety items would be security cameras, fencing, speed bumps. Again, those are all items that are addressed through our PEPL funds. Transportation, you've seen Rex in front of you before asking for approval for all of our buses, all of our small vehicles. We have an annual replacement cycle. Rex has done a very good job of being proactive in keeping our fleet up to snuff. Our current fleet consists of 46 yellow buses and 11 small vehicles. Under technology, we have a copier lease for the district, so all of our printing and scanning and all of that we do, all those machines in all of our buildings, that's handled through PEPL and our copier lease that we have. Non-instructional software is allowed under PEPL as well. So our Infinite Campus system, that is a very large, robust system that is all paid through out of PEPL. Payroll and accounting, that's, we're making sure people are paid each month. Our GoGuardian, Google licenses, all of those non-instructional softwares licenses can come out of PEPL. The next slide is just a nice little chart to show. I just went back 5 years on this. So in the last 5 years, out of our PEPL funds, we've spent $5.95 million in those 4 major areas. As you can see, I feel the district has done a very solid job of trying to balance out between each of those 4 areas. On the next slide, Amy, if you want to move. So future needs, why are we asking to renew this, and what are we going to continue to use these funds for? For buildings and grounds, we're going to continue those annual projects. Currently, we allocate about $500,000 a year for those projects. Back in 2018, the district had a study done by TSP to identify all of our long-range facility needs for the district. Those numbers in that study estimated out to be about $54 million. That study also broke down our assessment needs by high, low, and medium priorities. About $8.5 million of that 54 was identified as high priority needs for the district to address. That's a very in-depth study, and it included many items, as you can see listed there, not all, or includes but is not limited to roof, windows, door replacement repairs, tuck pointing, boilers, ADA compliance, elevator repairs, updated educational spaces, etc. Under safety and security, as I referenced before, we've had in-depth safety and security assessments performed by the district. Several of those items have been identified through insurance walkthroughs as well, and a lot of the items identified in those assessments were identified in the TSP audit as well. The district in the last several years has made a very concentrated effort to increase our spending in this area. Transportation, we need to continue to keep up our fleet. We currently replace about 2 to 3 buses and 2 to 3 small vehicles per year. And we currently allocate about $350,000 per year for our vehicle allocation cycle. Another high need that's been identified for transportation is storage. We have, if any of you have driven down by the bus barn, we have several buses out in the open. I would estimate we have about $2 million worth of vehicles sitting out in the open that could be susceptible to the elements, vandalism, or any other sort of damage. So having those in a secure storage would be a need at some point that we will want to look at addressing. Estimated cost for that need is about $1 million. Technology, again, we want to continue our non-instructional software renewal and our copier lease. Currently, we allocate about $300,000 per year for that. Other needs that we've identified outside of those replacement cycles include security cameras, phone intercom system upgrades, as well as enhancement to classroom audio-visual systems. Current estimates for those items is around $3.5 million. So some quick final takeaways that I have for all of you. Again, our upcoming election is March 5th, 2024. So I have a resolution that I will be presenting to the board tonight asking them to have me call a special election for March 5th for the renewal of our voted PEPL. In addition to renewing the levy, we are also going to be asking our community to increase from the 67 cents to $1.34. As we've highlighted tonight, we have several needs that have been identified in the district. We do have SAVE funding as well, but this is going to give us the ability to be able to address a lot of needs sooner rather than later. We have also positioned ourselves financially to be able to increase to the $1.34 without having to raise our overall total tax levy. So our current total tax levy is $15.99, and we've made a cognizant effort to lower the tax levy over the last several years, with our highest rate being $18.35 back in 2021. So as you can see, we've already brought it down a couple dollars there. Again, we want to utilize these funds to continue and increase, or continuation and increase of this levy along with our current SAVE dollars will allow us to continue to make improvements and allow students to have opportunities they need to succeed while also minimizing the impact on our local taxpayers. And that is my presentation. So I will entertain any questions at this time.
I think a couple things to highlight from your presentation. One is that the needs as it relates to these annual update repair items, which I'll call the curb and code type of things, far exceed our ability to do it in any given year based on the 67 cents per thousand that's currently generated. As far as the SAVE dollars go, those have largely helped with the large-scale projects, and all you have to do is look around. A number of the board members went on school visits with us as we were looking at relatively recently built or renovated intermediate schools and middle schools, and many of those districts were replacing 1964 vintage buildings when that era is as new as we have across all of our tenants areas. And as we've been talking about relative to the potential of running a bond referendum next November, we're going to be looking at the potential of running that to address what will be a 100-year-old building in 2025 with Miller Middle School. So I think there's no better case scenario than after having reduced our educational related tax rate by over $2 per thousand to be able to take this step and do this kind of significant work, basically double the effort of the work and expedite it without increasing the cost of the education tax rate is a great opportunity.
Yeah, I agree, Aaron. I mean, there's plenty of need.
Well, those older buildings require more maintenance costs to keep them up to date and be able to have them safe for our students. I mean, anytime you want to add something, just the infrastructure is not set up in those buildings to do the technology. I mean, adding the technology costs more than it would in a more modern school because it would have been set up to be able to add that technology, which our buildings just aren't set up that way today.
Well, and the $54 million that were identified by TSP did not in any way, shape, or form include any of our athletic facilities, which are also had been aged before we started updating and renovating some of those. So, yeah, the needs are significant, but this would be a big step in helping us support getting those things where they need to be, and largely to take care of what we already have, by hopefully getting community support for this.
I think it's just great that as a district, we have ourselves in a really good financial position to be able to do this and not, possibly raise taxes at all. And we reduced it the last couple of years.
Any other questions for Randy on his PEPL presentation? Okay.
Nice job, Randy.
Thank you. You want to talk about your resolution?
I mean, the resolution is what it is. I'm going to be asking you all to basically have me call an election on March 5th to go to the voters and increase from 67 cents to $1.34.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution ordering an election on the question of continuing to levy a voter-approved physical plant and equipment property tax as presented?
So moved. Second.
You guys switched that time.
We did.
Stanley Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. So then, Randy, you're going to be riding the circuit, so to speak, giving that or some version of that presentation.
Theron's riding shotgun with me, so yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna make the tour. So. Flyers as well. Yep. Well, and we'll be pushing out some information as well. There'll be a website set up for folks to go to that'll have some more in-depth presentation beyond what my presentation had. So,
nice.
Yep. Look for that information here over the coming days.
Yeah, because March 5th will be here very quickly.
There will be, yes. Okay, I'm up again. So deja vu all over again for the dropout prevention. I guess I can chalk this up to a glitch on the DE. We approved everything last month. I went to submit the application, and as I went to submit it, I had noticed that the amount had changed. So I reached out to the Department of Ed, and they had told me what happened, which was some sort of a glitch, and the report was technically due yesterday. So we did go ahead and submit it, and if for whatever reason the board does not want to do the maximum amount that's presented tonight, we can go in and change that. But they also need minutes approving the amount that is requested. So I come before you tonight asking to approve the at-risk with the updated amount of $1,696,716. Again, that is a spending authority request.
So we approved the maximum in December.
You did approve the maximum in December, and
But
this,
due to some sort of a calculation error, the dollar amount was different.
The dollar amount,
Got it.
yep, and this, $80,000. This is an increase from what you approved last month.
Okay. But still the maximum
But
amount.
still the maximum amount, yes.
And it's spending authority.
Yes, it
correct?
is spending authority. This is not the cash.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve the submission of the request for modified supplemental amount for dropout prevention in the amount of $1,696,716 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Faltis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Policies.
All right, we'll try to take these in waves since there's a bunch of them. So I think Randy and Nora presented a new policy that was developed by Allers at our request, 403.07. Marshtown Community School District testing program for employees not required to possess a CDL. And then we had another new policy that is being, was mandated by the legislature, which is 503.08, discipline of students who make threats of violence or cause incidents of violence. So nothing has changed in these two since they were presented to you at the last meeting. I would recommend approval and waiving the second reading.
Are there any questions about 403.7 and 503.8? Not, is there a motion to adopt those two policies and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second?
Faltis Wall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
And we had a number of amended policies, 903.02E1, school volunteer application, 401.01, equal employment opportunity, 503.01, student conduct, 503.01 R2, which will now be R1, student conduct regulation, 503.02 expulsion, and 701.05 R1 financial metrics. We would, again, none of these have changed since they were presented at the last meeting. We would recommend approval and waiving the second reading.
Any questions about any of those policies? Not, is there a motion to amend 903.02E1, 401.01, 503.01, 503.01 R2, 503.02, and 701.05 R1, and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Wise Faltis.
I wasn't ready for that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
I want to high five you for that.
Got one.
As far as initial review, we have 5 policies that are being amended that have to do with finance. Do you want to speak to those, Randy?
Sure. A lot of them are just language updates, so I can go through them real quick. 701.01 is just some rewording of how we will designate our depositories each year. That is not that reflects our current practice. 701.02. That's reflecting some new law changes about how dollars in certain categoricals can be transferred at the end of the year without board action. here, 70103. That is just providing updated definitions of all of our different funds. 70104. Again, that is just reflecting, that's just updated to reflect GASB standards of how we have to report our fund balances. 70301, again, that's updated to reflect legislative languages here. Oh yeah, with the new budget processes about how we have to have the tax statements in March 15th. We'll be having those conversations here in the next couple of meetings, but that's really all it is just some house cleaning on reflecting some legislative changes and just some current practices. Any questions about those policies for Randy?
On 701.01, it says the board will also designate the maximum amount at each institution.
Yep.
Is that something the finance committee will talk about at our next meeting, or?
That's just that's part of our annual meeting each year. So
Okay.
we designate, I bring the recommendation as to what the amounts will be. It's usually, I
Okay.
believe, roughly 35 million. So that's just been our standard. But if you would like to discuss it at a finance committee, we can. Any other questions? Okay. I don't know who had initial review policies. Was it you, Karina?
Karina.
Okay.
Email last week. Easy enough. 704.101. No changes marked as reviewed. 704.02. No changes as well, marked as review. 704.02 R1. Also no changes, marked as reviewed. 704.03, no changes, marked as reviewed. 704.04, no changes, marked as reviewed. And 704.05, no changes, marked as reviewed.
And all of those fell within the financial policies, so Randy's reviewed those all as well.
If there are no questions about those, they will all be marked as reviewed. Reminders, February 5th is our next meeting. Zach, you have initial review policies. And the high school will be presenting. And then there is, it must be next week that we go to, is that the Orpheum for the high school visit? Is that next week?
Yeah.
Committees coming up are on their committee meetings. The only one noted is the equity committee that met back in December.
Oh,
yeah.
Would have been before the meeting, so yeah, okay.
Just on the reminders, I didn't see the benefits committee meeting. That's tomorrow night.
Well, that's
so,
tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just as an
Same
FYI.
time,
Yep.
same place.
Yep, same bat channel. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any items anyone would like to consider for a future agenda? What have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown? It's been a long night.
I like to see all the changes and opportunities that are going on at the high school. That's always nice to hear. Very detailed of how her presentation was. And the handbook is just amazing. And I agree with you, Sean. The pictures just makes it much more easier to follow. Even
I
as a
think
parent.
we were given some good information from the AEA and how we can advocate for what we need in our district.
I enjoyed hearing the student representatives talk about the book and relate their personal experiences at school to the book. That just, I mean, that's exactly why we're doing what we do here, so, and what you guys do every day. So I think that was great for me.
I thought the two student recognition groups, number one, both of them have been recognized for top of class, essentially. That innovation award is kind of like the premier award with the Lego League, and then not only the girls being the first to win a state title in their respective division, but then to also be recognized for their academics was really neat as well.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes or so for a break, and then we've got a couple of closed sessions this evening. So. Throw away.
So if anyone's available tomorrow night.